All right. If it's Tuesday, that could mean only one thing, Mike. What's that thing?
It means that it's time for Comic Book School, where we teach you the craft and business of everything comics.
Wow. Holy cow. You really have been paying attention with the show.
I've been on the show for a little while, so I know.
A little while, until we replace you.
So guys, somebody better.
Last week's show was we ended soon. I wasn't quite there. So now I will not nap before the show anymore. And as Mike knows, the secret to a good episode is lots of candy. So if you see me eating lollipops, it's to keep the energy high.
Yep. That works well. Look, we got our comments coming in.
Hello, James. Nice to see you. Welcome back.
We got Redheaded Ed.
With his blue shirt to do. What do you got, Mike? I got a Star Wars.
I got a Snoopy.
Snoopy. Oh, I actually like Snoopy quite a lot. Mike, we really dress it up. Hello, Victor. Nice to see you again. Nice to see you. Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, Blossom's back.
Hey, Blossom. Nice to see you. Hey, Mike, we got a special show tonight because we actually have a guest who is waiting inside the green room. He is a long-time friend. But first, before we bring our guest on, a little bit about us. My name is Buddy Scalera, and I am the creator of Comic Book School. I write comic books. I've done photo reference. Mike, does this at all look familiar to you? This is I found that on the internet. An early screenshot of Wizard.
Vaguely familiar.
From 1999.
Oh.
So
that's
yeah.
Good times.
I write them their comics, and Mike writes them their TV shows. Mike is a 3-time Emmy Award-winning television writer with all the credits that anybody could ever want, including Robot Chicken. And Mike, I took a few additional images this time off of your IMDb. Like sometimes we forget all the things. I had to make some hard choices to get it to line up nicely, but you got quite the portfolio, but I don't want to wait any longer. I want to welcome our guest to the show. Let me cue up the cheering. Let's get the cheering ready. Welcome to the show.
Oh, you took a slide down.
Yeah. Zach, welcome to the show. Zach Oat is a longtime friend from the good old Wizard days. We're going to give a quick intro to Zach Oat. Zach is famous for his work on Toy Fair and Twisted Toy Fair magazine. He worked at NBC Universal and for 14 years at Diamond Select Toys. And his newly published book, Wild Toys, action figure photography of Zach Oat, is now out and available on Amazon. So we're here to talk to Zach about the craft and business of photographing toys. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. It's great to see you both. It's been a while, but I've known you both for a very long time. Are we allowed to say how long it is, or will that age us?
It doesn't matter. They know we're old.
They know how old we are.
They know. You're younger than us, Zach.
26 years.
Yes. As you can see from all the gray.
Well, I ran into Zach, Mike, at New York Comic Con, and exact same guy, like the biggest smile in the world. I was like, this guy, forever young, like the nicest guy in the office, always with the biggest smile, and creative as hell, right, Mike?
Yep, that's it. I remember Zach sitting there setting up little action figures on his desk.
We've got some behind the scenes of Zach doing that very thing tonight, Mike. So let's get on with the show because we got a lot to show tonight. First off, Zach, tell us about this book that you've just published called Wild Toys, which apparently you can get on Amazon. We do not. Hold on. Let me before we say anything. We're not paying Zach. We're not getting paid for this. There's no endorsements. Apparently, YouTube is like cracking down on this if they think you're making money on it. So, what's your book all about, Zach?
Well, I've been. I was with Diamond for 14 years, and when I started out, they were still building up all their social media accounts. This was in 2011, and so they had followers on Facebook and I guess Twitter. But we were building up. I think we started the Instagram account when I came on board, and I just started building it up with my own photography of the products as they came out. I would get the samples and I would take them out. We had a New York office at the time, so I would take them out on the streets of New York. I would set up little sets on my desk. and I would start taking pictures of them. And the 14 years later, I don't run the social media accounts anymore. Well, I didn't. We hired more people to take over social media accounts, but I was still taking pictures on my own and just having fun with it. And I do it out on my porch at night. And I decided to put together a book just because I like books. I like physical media.
Well, it looks great. Our comp copies haven't arrived yet, Mike, but we're just going to look at a couple of the interior scans that Zach sent us in advance. I just did a search. If anybody wants to do a search, I just searched Wild Toys Photography book Zach Oat. Same thing will come up if you put in Girls Gone Wild Zach Oat. The same thing will come up. So Zach, you've taken some amazing photos. You must be using either top quality equipment or have talent. Which is it?
It's probably neither. It's probably just a lot of experimentation. I never studied. I was an art major in school, but I never studied photography. I could never afford to have a really good camera. I still don't really have a good camera. I've got one that's pretty good, but usually I shoot with my Samsung Galaxy A03s, which has a pretty good camera on it. And
so this isn't photoshopped. Like this is practical.
This particular photo was just shot on the street. I put a little twisty tie in one hand to make it look like a web, and I held it up above my head, and I took a picture of it.
You didn't take the city and then Photoshop this over. This was actual.
This particular one, yeah. I don't think I photoshopped anything on this one. It was just a picture of him in the street. I think I used a flash on this one just to make sure, because I was kind of in the shadows. But I think it came out pretty nice.
Mike, tell the truth. Weren't you hoping he's like, oh yeah, I use like an $8,000 camera?
Yeah, I was. I also want to know if when you're out there shooting these on the streets, do people always look at you funny? Like, what are you doing?
Fewer people in New York City will ask you what you're doing than you would think. Mostly they just want you to get out of the way.
Yes.
But it's they'll ask you questions. You'll get some people who are just really friendly and gregarious and be like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And I talk to them, depending on how scary they are.
Yes.
But
first you get out of my shot, and then
get out of my shot.
Sometimes they are in the shot. That is very true. But no, I just try to stay out of people's way usually.
This is another interesting one. You would think that this was set up professionally. Well, you are professional, so it is kind of set up professionally. But like, I guess there's some light source here. What's going on? How did you make this magic happen?
This is another one that I'm pretty sure it doesn't use any Photoshop. I had a paper background printed out of the sewer. I wasn't actually in a sewer, and I had some rocks. And with translucent pieces like the cards that Gambit comes with, is just finding a place to put the light that illuminates the clear parts and doesn't necessarily.
But do you have like a purple light going on here? What's going on here?
I think I did have a little bit of purple light, and that's what I do have. A couple of lights that are maybe semi kind of fancy. I have like one that you can change the color on it, so I probably use the purple one here. And you can see some of the light on Gambit's face, but it looks like it's coming off of the cards, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because you kind of do look like it's coming off the cards, but then you look at the ground and you're like, wow, what a great job that you've done, like creating this scene, right, Mike?
Yeah, that looks very cool. I thought you actually were in a sewer taking that picture. I mean, it doesn't even look like just a fake background.
Actually, that where he is now, he is trapped in a dungeon under the sewer right now where he's broadcasting from. That's why every once in a while he freezes a little bit, Mike.
We got a little question here for you.
Oh, you got a real question.
Yeah, I wonder if you could put colored tissue paper over a lamp, or would that just make a fire hazard? Well, probably.
Depending on how long you kept it on there, it would probably be, but you can get probably very inexpensively, and I do have some that came with some of my lights. You can get plastic gels. I don't think they cost a lot, but you could just filter it over whatever light you're using. And I don't use really, aside from that one that I can change the color on, I don't really use fancy lights. Like a lot of the lights that I use, I get from like the dollar store. Like one of my favorite lights is this one, which has just 4.
Wait, hold on, Zach. Let's zoom you in here.
Oh, sure.
make you big.
It's just got 4 lights. It's meant to like clip up into a little holder in the closet. And just, you push the button on the end and it's got four individual lights. So I can make it, if I wanted to have it look like headlights were coming down the road at somebody, I could, put this in the background. If I need to light up the background, I can just put this light behind the figures. It's very low profile, so you don't see it. It's very useful. I use it for a lot of stuff, but I do have.
And that's when you have to escape from that dungeon. You use that light and make your way out, right?
Oh yeah. You can even use a flashlight if that's all you have. You don't need to go out to the Dollar Tree and buy a bunch of stuff. You can just there are some flashlights that are like LED that can create like a strobing effect, so you got to look out for those. But if you have like a standard old-fashioned flashlight, then those can be perfectly useful.
Read this one out. So Redheaded Ed works in the comic book school team and is a designer. What do you think of the comment here, Mike? You want to read it out?
You can get colored cellophane or acetate in craft or art stores too. If the real theater gels are too money.
So there's another hack for you. So you can do it almost any way you want. Let's take another look at another thing. I'm glad that you didn't just do Marvel and DC. I'm glad you went into other universes. I got to tell you, this one's impressive. This one's got a lot going on. You got an extreme foreground, you got a midground, you got a background. Like, this is a great comic book panel.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I thought the shadow over his face was, kind of making him look kind of evil. I do like having stuff out of focus in the foreground. And the paper background is just another one of the great backgrounds that we use for. I have a lot of them because we would use them for Toy Fair. We would put them behind the prototypes to make it, to make them look cool. And at the end of Toy Fair, they're like, "All right, we're just gonna throw all these away." So I'm like, "I'm gonna take them."
Don't throw anything away.
So like some would be behind a Godzilla figure, maybe like a destroyed city, kind of like this. Some of them would be behind, Lord of the Rings, if it's like a woodsy kind of look. So I have a lot of, and I have city backgrounds out the wazoo. I use a lot of different city backgrounds.
Yeah, but that's the thing, that just the small touch like that brings so much to this scene. And how far behind the dad figure is that background in order to get that effect?
They're not big, so I can't do like real crazy depth of fields. That's probably not too much more than 5 or 6 inches.
Oh wow!
So that's probably why it's in pretty good focus compared to the focus on the Omni-Man. So it's not too blurred, because it's probably not too far away.
Mike, what do you think?
I think that's impressive. I want to. Where do you get your ideas for this, Zach? Is it just, I got a couple action figures and here's a good thought?
Yeah, usually I've just gotten in some new ones and I'm like, hey, what can I do with these? And a scene will come to me. Sometimes I'll be thinking about a license or a property, just on my own, and I'll think like, oh, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do a scene like this? And I'll have to go find the figures and dig them out of my archives and have to put together the scene, a little bit more difficult. But if I have them just on hand, usually something comes to me. I try to, sometimes, and I don't do it all for the hits, but if something is like in the news, like the Fantastic Four nowadays, or John Wick with Ballerina, then I'll dig those out and I'll say, well, what can I do that's interesting for this? And maybe it's something that might, interest a lot more people.
Now, do you have them all organized somewhere in another room, just all sitting on shelves that you can just go and grab them?
I wish I had like a display. This small cubicle office, which is really a closet, is pretty much where I display my action figures. So I don't really have a lot out on display.
Well, let's zoom in on Zach. Hold on. It really does look like you're trapped in there, Zach.
This is, some people say, oh, look at that giant shelf of toys in the background. This is literally 6 inches away from me. So it's like, that's how big my toys are.
Wow. I like the phrase that you used earlier, when new toys come in. That's a very pragmatic way of saying I bought some new stuff.
Yep.
When new toys come in.
I don't spend a whole ton on toys. And when I was working for Diamond Select Toys, I would get in regular samples of the new stuff to play with and to check out and take pictures of. some people send me stuff that they think I'd be interested in shooting, which is very nice. So I'll get in like a Marvel Legend here and there, or
Uh-oh. Who's
that?
I don't know what that is. No idea what that is. That
It's
wasn't
one
me.
of
Was
those
that you?
random
No.
sounds.
Oh, wait, Mike has to read this one out loud. I don't mean to break because Andrew's from Australia, so Mike treats us to his Australian accent.
Prepare yourself, Zach. You ready? I played and destroyed my action figures over the years like a dumb kid instead of keeping them in a box in the investment.
How was that? Well, that was pretty good, right, Zach?
That was prettle terrible. I didn't read it.
No, come on. We're gonna give you a little.
That was good.
That's not bad.
Maybe a little Cockney.
Yeah, yes. It was more English than it was us. But I mean, they are from the same place. So
Do you and your kids fight over the toys?
Yes. Well, yeah, sometimes the figures will go away for a while and I'll be like, have you seen this one? But they're like, oh yeah, it's in my room somewhere. I'm like, because their interest is very fleeting. But they like it, and then they kind of lose interest. But wow. my son likes to take pictures of his Legos. He actually shoots like stop motion animations of his Legos, which is very cool. So sometimes when I get something back, I'll be like, oh, that's where this has been for the past 6 months. And then I'll want to take some pictures of it.
So you bring the whole family is going to be in the business.
Yeah. He's really into it. So I'm hoping that he sticks with it because he does a great job.
Let's see what else you got in the book there, Zach. All right. Little bit of inspiration there. New movie or new show, TV show. What's kind of new movies coming out, right?
New movie.
Yeah. Karate Kid, what, Legends. Yeah, no, I'm not fully happy with the pose on this one, but I did like the background, and it was a lot of work getting him to balance on the post that I had like stuck into the sand. That's like almost like a broomstick that like goes that's like 3 or 4 feet tall.
I feel like you nailed it. I mean, I know that you're probably more critical of your own work than anybody else, but I think the pose is perfect.
Yeah, the arms should be a little higher, but I think the background is pretty cool. It's because I there's a scene in the movie where they're doing that on the post and they're on the beach, and it's just I thought that was kind of neat.
We got Gatilla saying, anyone else find it ironic that the guy who writes for Robot Chicken just read a message from a guy who laments the destruction of his toys?
There is some irony there. What is Robot Chicken?
Oh boy, Blossom,
Blossom. We are going to have an episode, and you're going to have to sit through the whole thing. All right, let's keep going. Oh, Zach, they're trying to get you to help you escape from the show.
I don't know who that is. I have no idea.
This one's pretty innovative, Zach. It took me a minute to figure out what was going on here. You want to describe what's happening here?
That is Legolas from Lord of the Rings about to jump down with a knife and take out an Uruk-hai orc who's carrying a torch, which I think is not the torch that actually came with that in that line. And there's Aragorn came with the torch, but I think this torch is from another character. But so a lot of my accessories get mixed up, and I'm like, I don't know where this one came from. But,
Mom, Dad took my toys again.
But I was pretty happy with this. Like the background and the foreground, he's kind of a little blurry in the background, so you don't know exactly who it is or what's going on. But
yeah, this took some planning. I mean, this one you had to think about the location. You had to think about how to place Legolas. Is that his name, right? Legolas.
Yeah. Yeah, close enough.
Yeah. There's a lot going on here, and then even just your eye goes from the left to the right to the excellent storytelling, Zach Oat. You were a great visual storyteller. What do you think, Mike?
I think it's good. He knows the Z pattern, as you're always saying.
He is definitely adhering to the Z pattern. This is pretty crazy.
Oh, that's great.
I like shooting in the grass. It's fun to have the figures running through the grass. Like it's really tall grass, but it's actually short grass.
You got a lot going on here. Now this is just the phone?
Yeah.
Not really fair.
I can't think of any specific photos that I took on the camera that I would call out here and be like, oh well, this is why this one is so much better. It's just there's just phone pictures.
It's just a guy with some plastic and a phone.
Yeah.
So pretty much anybody who's motivated enough can do it. But you do seem to have an ability to tell a story here. I mean, even just looking over the shoulder and discovering MODOK there coming up behind him, that's a story right there.
Yep.
I was
That's a
inspired
cover.
by an old comic cover, actually. I don't know if I remember it exactly right. I think I might have looked it up, but there's one where he's like looking behind him and MODOK is like looming behind him. That was like my era of Iron Man. I love that.
Yeah, and is this practical, or are you putting? I think you said sometimes you apply a couple filters occasionally, but that's about it.
I do use the Instagram filters for a lot of my posts. Sometimes in the book, I went back in and I did some Photoshop stuff to mimic that on the main photos. But like this might have used vignette. It darkens all the corners and makes it, sort of draws attention to the middle of the picture. So I might have used that vignette for this one. Sometimes I'll use structure, which maybe crisps up some of the details. There's just a light behind his rocket boost there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It looks like Blank Stare has a question for her. Mike, you want to read that out?
Yeah. Did you read up on photography to sharpen your skills with lighting and composition, or was all of it trial and error?
Like I said before, it was a lot of just trial and error. I started doing photography when I was at Toy Fair because the photographer that we had shooting everything inside the magazine was a freelancer, so we had to pay him for every single picture he took, and then we didn't even have ownership of the pictures. He still owned them, and we would have to pay him to run them in the magazine. So they said, all right, we're just going to get a camera, we're going to do it ourselves. Zach, you're shooting all the interior stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So I had to learn how to shoot stuff, on white, just simple stuff. But then they had me shooting TTT, Twisted Toy Fair, which, was on sets. And I had to, learn how to light so that there weren't giant shadows everywhere and that stuff wasn't blown out. And there was a certain amount, and I storyboarded a lot of those too. So I knew how, the characters needed to be laid out to present the story, the actual, comedic timing and beats and word balloon order that made it work. And I was an art major, so I do have certain understanding of composition, just because I studied a lot of artists and I did a lot of art, painting and drawing and cartooning. So I guess I know how to lay out a picture, just from that training. But the photography is entirely learned on the fly, on the job. Just doing it because
you're passionate about it and you practice.
No, right? I do it for fun now, and it's just I want to go out and I want to take some pictures of it because I think it would look really cool. And you force yourself to make the picture work. I'll shoot like 15, 20 different shots of the same thing, and then I'll go back and I'll be like, oh well, none of them worked until I did this last thing on shot number 15. Or I'll say, all right, none of these worked except for the first one that I took, which was the original shot, and I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of behind the scenes and some tips at the end, but let's get through this. Playing a little story here.
Yeah.
Now, like, where does one get a mini Pac-Man machine?
On sale at CVS after Christmas.
All right, fair enough.
It's a Christmas ornament.
Fair enough.
And those are like the two Star Wars figures I have, so I just had them playing.
You were like, let's just do this. Okay. You got your family is on vacation. There's a hotel and Zach is lying on the floor with Ghostbusters figures. Is that?
I wish we were going on vacation a lot more than we do, but this was probably at work, probably visiting the home office or something like that going on, and going into the hallway and hoping nobody comes out the door and wonders what I'm doing.
Yeah, these are pretty awesome. Zach, whoever's calling you, you want to blink twice if you need to be rescued, okay?
I gotta figure out how to turn that off. I don't even know.
Blink twice if you need to be rescued. Okay.
I have no idea.
But really, I mean, the use of the background. It needs more slide. But the use, by the way, that's Greg Orlando, Zach. Yep. Sliming up by 8%.
Andrew wants to know if you want him to answer your phone for you.
I think I turned it off. Sometimes my kids use his phone on this computer, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to FaceTime somebody." So now they're all trying to FaceTime them, and it's like,
they're like, "Is your dad on YouTube?"
I think I shut it off.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
Here we go. We got another wizard guy.
Hey, there's Zach. There's
Hey,
Russ. Russ, hold on. Let me. I got a media asset for Russ. Hold on. Let me pull it up with my lightning quick thing. Achievement. We got Russ. We got another. We got 5 wizard guys on all at the same time.
That's crazy talk.
That is crazy. All right, here we go. Let's see what else we got. This is my favorite of them all. That's why I saved it for last. When you sent me this, I said, this should have been the cover. I know that you had a different guy on the cover. This to me steals the show.
That's probably one of the earliest pictures in the book. I just had the figure and I'm like, well, what's he going to do? And he's just going to walk down the street. And
that's what Hulk does.
Yeah.
Do you just happen to be carrying action figures with you, or do you go out with a plan?
I would go into the office for the day, and I'd do work, in the morning, and then lunchtime I'd be like, oh, let's just go walk around a little bit, and I'd take whatever new samples came in, and I'd just see what I could do. There's a lot of pictures that didn't even make the book. I could do a whole nother second volume today, and it would be all new pictures.
Wait, what? A whole new second volume? It does sound like the audience likes that idea. We got a lot of comments flying in. By the way, this would make combined with Russ Wooten's lettering and logo design would make a nice poster, I think, if we want to combine forces, because we know Russ Wooten is on. Okay, one more before we go behind the scenes. Is this homage to the black and white Walking Dead comics?
Yes, those are the first 2 figures from the DST Walking Dead line, and I just wanted to. I love playing with doing the shadow cast on the wall thing. I've done that in a bunch of different photos, so I just thought it'd be kind of fun to do that. And I pulled backgrounds from a lot of different toy lines. I think the walls are from like Gotham, our Gotham TV line, and I think there's some stuff from like our Sin City movie action figure line. The broken bottles and the grate and stuff like that. So it's just fun finding all the elements and putting together something that.
Do you own a warehouse, Zach?
I do not. I shoot all this stuff out on my porch, but I've got like a big bag of just diorama pieces that I just pull out.
Your house sounds like the envy of everybody who's watching tonight.
I'm sure it is not.
All right, here we go. Wait, before we do that, Mike, didn't you do a little bit of research about action figures? Anything that you want to share with? Because I think Mike, Mike's got a lot of thoughts. Hold on, let's put Mike on big here, Zach.
Oh, don't put me on big. No one wants to see that. But I got some trivia that maybe Zach can answer for us.
I'll try. All
right. Okay, we're gonna go with what year did Hasbro coin the term action figure with the launch of G.I. Joe?
1963.
Close. 1964.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry, Zach.
Yeah.
That's all right. I remember when G.I. Joe started up.
And G.I. Joe was the first action figure, from Hasbro, obviously. And why didn't they call them dolls? Do you know why?
Because boys wouldn't play with them, probably.
Exactly.
Mego called them dolls, though, right? I remember the comic book ad said Mego buy the dolls, right?
That's strange.
I don't know. I wonder if there was some sort of import-export situation where they had to call them a certain thing or not, because I can't imagine, I don't think there was ever a copyright on action figure, although maybe there was for all I know.
I wonder if there's anybody who has access to Google who can Google that for us, because I think it said dolls with Mego.
Really?
Yeah, I don't ever remember any ads saying Mego action figures. I don't really remember.
Yeah, I think they said Mego 8-inch dolls.
Huh. Well, maybe they wanted to see if they could rebrand them as dolls.
Maybe. Mike, what else you got? What else you got for Zach here?
Okay, here we go. True or false? Barbie is technically considered an action figure.
True.
False. She is a fashion doll.
Okay.
So even though she sold like a billion copies, she's not technically an action figure. She's
one more wrong, Zach, and we're kicking you off the show.
the technically threw me off. I'm like, wait, because she has points of articulation.
Yeah,
Is
see,
that
that's the
why
thing.
she might be an action figure?
That is the thing. Where was let's see, I got Barbie is technically a fashion doll, not an action figure.
You don't think Mike was going to go easy on you just because you're the guest tonight, did you,
But
Zach?
if you're
I
going,
thought I was answering the hard question with the
no.
with the clever answer, but no, it was hard because it
is hard.
It
Yeah.
was the answer I least expected.
But Barbie, do you know how many units Barbie has sold since 1959?
Oh my gosh. It's probably in the 100 million.
She has sold $1 billion since 1959.
A billion.
$1
I almost
billion.
went for $1 billion.
1 billion.
That seemed excessive.
No, they should have
believe
just
it
stopped at 100 million.
They said that's greedy. That's greedy. All right, we're going to go right back to the show, Zach. You had given us some images of you working behind the scenes, and let's jump right into it. What's going on here?
I'm setting up a shot of the Hulk fighting Thing. You can see how big the backgrounds are. They're really not terribly huge. They're maybe 12 inches tall and maybe 24, 36 inches wide. You can see some of the lights I use. I have that stick light that I use. I have an Ulanzi light on the left.
Oh, there's that light, right?
Yeah, and the white one on the left is the one that changes color.
Oh,
and then I've got one coming down from above, actually, which I think you can just barely see. I have a couple sticks that go across, and there's one up there.
So you get that 3-point lighting going in like our very small working space.
Yes, very small. It's it's like a 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot cube. That I don't need the cube, but it helps support the background and keep it in place, and I can use the sticks. But I've shot without it before. If I'm just using like the individual diorama pieces.
And just to be clear, people gave you money, and this was part of your job.
For a little while, yeah.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean that is like a dream for most people. You're like playing with toys for a living. Mike, you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that. Don't know anything about that at all.
All right, here we go. You showed me some, as shot and then as edited. Talk us through left and right. What are we looking at?
The one on the right is actually the before. You can see it's a little bit brighter. You can see I used a little bit of Photoshop to take out support behind him and add in some extra rocks on the left there and the rain. You can see the vignette happening around the corners where the corners get darkened just to draw the attention to the center of the picture. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it may not be the exact shot, but I'm pretty sure it is. This is
an impressive shot, though. I mean, there's a lot of emotion here, and you've captured it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it was just sometimes I don't want to get political, but it's sometimes depending on the time of year. I'm sure there's people all over the country who have felt this way about things, and or just I reposted on Memorial Day because it had a lot of a lot of meaning for it there. But I love Captain America. He's one of my favorite characters, and I can see him being very upset about something in this picture.
Yeah, it's good, right, Mike?
Yeah, very good. Now, do you keep every single one of these shots that you take? Like, do you have a 50 gig hard drive that you just store everything on?
Well, most of them are on my computer now. I keep like an online digital cloud base where I keep a lot of stuff. Yeah, no slime needed.
Greg Orlando strikes again. All right, let's see another behind the scenes. Talk us through this.
This one's a little bit more subtle. I think I probably darkened it across the board just to make a little bit more contrast. I might have used a little bit of that structure filter.
So the left is the original?
Left is the original. Yeah, and I darkened it a little bit, and I might have done a little work to remove the seam between the floor and the background. I didn't do too much for this. I kind of had to find some of the ones where I'd saved the original and done significant visible amount of work on the final one. But I think this one you can tell that the shadows get increased a little bit, and the detail on the face gets a little bit sharper, and it's the one on the left was just shot with, again, probably a couple different lights. And I probably would have been, relatively happy if I ran that one out as is, but I just, do little tiny things to punch it up.
Now, Mike, what's the question here? It looks like there's a question from the audience.
What editing software are you using?
For most of the pictures, I edit them inside my phone using the Instagram tools.
Wow.
For the book, I took a lot of the originals and I went in with Photoshop to just make sure that I had the highest resolution version possible, and to remove stuff that I couldn't necessarily remove in Instagram, like details or hairs or strings or anything like that. So that's what I did. It's Photoshop is great. If you don't have Photoshop, you can use some pretty basic photo apps. What do I have on my Macintosh? I've got I think it's just called Photos. And if I open
there's Photos, there's Affinity, there's GIMP is free. There you don't really need fancy stuff. It looks like, Mike, it looks like you got another question there.
Yeah, we got any tips for taking shots with a mobile? The only trick I know is using the portrait mode.
Some phones do have a macro mode. I think my phone might have a macro mode, which I use sometimes. So if you're shooting something, especially small, it's just you just got to make sure you're always checking that focus, especially if you've got, the background or multiple characters in the image. You just got to make sure you're always tapping what you want to focus on, because sometimes I'll take a bunch of pictures and then, like, the one that I think would have been the best, the focus is just off. And so that's another reason I take like 5 or 6 shots.
Russ has Googled for us. Amigo used both superhero dolls and action figures in the ads in the 70s.
Okay.
And
when you think about it, they were using characters that were pretty established and well known. It's opposed to G.I. Joe, which was just a dude.
Yeah.
At the time.
Just a guy.
But if the Thing, it's like you can call him a doll, but it's still the Thing.
Yeah,
it's still the Thing. Yeah.
And Blossom likes to tweak exposure and play with the blur feature sometimes.
Blossom sounds like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like he actually does this stuff, but he doesn't have any toys.
Yeah, no toys. So Blossom, time to fix that. You're gonna have to get some toys to photograph.
Get a couple of toys.
Let's keep this moving. I thought this is kind of neat. It looks like you drew this out of the 10th anniversary issue. What are we looking at here? Just before I start zooming in.
Yeah, I apologize. I couldn't find my my originals that I had. I have all my original storyboards, but I found them as I'm sitting here at my desk. I'm like, oh, there they are. They're right there. But we reprinted a couple of pages of my storyboards in the Twisted Toy Fair Theater 10th anniversary volume, and you can see the original page, and then you can see the final page right there.
What's here is kind of funny here, like the dialogue between you and someone else.
Oh yeah, the volume is actually pretty great. It's still available on Amazon if you look for it, but it's got a whole conversation between me and Justin Acklin and John Gutierrez, where we're talking out the story beats of the special 10th anniversary strip where Spider-Man goes on inside the actor's studio. And this is when the Screen Actors Guild arrives to save Spider-Man from the evil, what's his name?
James Lipton.
James Lipton, yeah.
Oddly enough, this does kind of look like James Lipton right here.
It does very much like him.
You know?
Did I mention I was an art major? That's why it looks like James Lipton.
You actually know what you're doing. I never saw this. Mike, had you ever seen this? And James Lipton
seen that either, no.
People? I mean, what is this based on a real events? Shooting people in the action?
We kind of went over the top with him. We turned him into like a James Bond villain, where he was going to like steal Spider-Man's acting powers. Like he steals everybody's acting powers and he gives them to his students. And it was just, it's one of our, I think it's one of the funnier strips we did in our era of writing. And it was in the 10th anniversary volume exclusive.
Hooray for art majors. Okay. I wanted to add this in because no show is complete. Oh, yeah, I agree. Great storyboards.
Oh, thank you.
No show is complete without me talking about myself, Zach. The whole purpose of the show is to bring people on so I can talk about me.
Sure.
This is my action figure setup that you could see directly behind me. I did run LED lights in here, and I included this in a bucket list. And you know what the bucket list is, Zach? The bucket list is take your action figures out and do something and display them and play with them. I mean, unless there's really a reason to keep it in the box, rip open that box and have fun with it and display them. What do you think, Zach?
I totally agree. I don't think I have any. Well, that's not true. I'm surrounded by action figures still in their packaging, but like only because the packaging is so incredibly cool. Like these VHS figures that we did, where they come in like.
Oh wait, hold on. You could show us. Hold on.
Let me see if I can pull one off the wall. That was awesome.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I feel like the wall's going to come down.
They're like VHS.
Oh yeah, those are nice.
That's cool.
That is nice. Then that's part of the fun.
Yeah, they're just, and also you can't really hang them on the wall if they're out of package. If I had a whole bunch of shelves, I'd have a good thing going, but I don't.
Yeah, if they had shelves, you wouldn't be able to fit in there.
That's very true. This would be all shelves.
It would just be we would just have a shot of the shelves. But I thoroughly believe that like the real joy is showing your figures. And my daughter did this for me, and then I ran the LED lights, and she promised me that she's going to fix them up one day. And if you guys have not yet seen it from a couple months ago, right, Mike? We did the bucket list for comic creators.
Yes, the bucket list. I remember that.
Things to do before you kick the bucket.
Yep. Andrew still has Voltron, He-Man, and Skeletor. He's going to try to take a few photos.
And I'll keep watching Andrew because I follow Andrew on Twitter. Andrew's been doing his writing, Mike. He's been inspired by our show.
Really? Well, someone has to.
I'd love to see that. I guess we all have to start following each other on the socials.
Yes. Here's my D&D mini. Oh, look at that.
Look at that. Everybody's got something. Okay. You did something called Big Shots. I don't even know what that is. What is Big Shots?
Back when I was at Toy Fair, we had the price guide at the back of the magazine, which was like, anywhere from 10 to 20 pages of just prices. This is before eBay was like the go-to source for stuff. We would pull a lot of the prices from there to see what they were going for, but we'd also call up retailers around the country. And anyway, to make it interesting, on every page we would put a panel, which was toys interacting, and we would shoot the picture, and then we'd circulate it around the office on a clipboard, and people would write down funny jokes that they thought that the characters would say. And then the editor-in-chief would pick, Pat McCallum, R.I.P., would pick out the funniest ones, and we'd put the word balloons in and put it in the magazine. So I've started doing them on my own. They're not as funny because I only have one person submitting ideas as opposed to like 12. So take it with a grain of salt. They were a lot funnier than this.
Mike, I'm still waiting for the clipboard to circulate to me.
I think I got the clipboard once, and then after that, I didn't get it again.
Well, they hired you for Robot Chicken, so you must have done something right.
Yeah.
I was good for morale.
Yeah, you were good for morale. Oh, by the way, Mike, look at this. This I subtly slipped in here. Here are all of the socials channels that we're on now.
I like how you subtly slipped them in and then had to tell people that they're in there.
It's just very subtle. Let me see if I can subtly magnify where they can follow us. I don't support them equally, but I'm trying. So you do these big shots. We're not going to go through each one. Just give us a quick thought or memory or something.
It's like, again, I find figures that I like going to thrift stores and rescuing toys from, the action figure bags that's on the wall. And so I'll find an old vintage Ninja Turtle figure that I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to take that home. Or Jonathan Frakes' character from Gargoyles. And then I think the little kid is from Caillou, that show about the baby, and then just a crazy Spider-Man figure.
Now, would it upset you to know that if I had these action figures, more than likely I would put an M80 on them?
Now
yes.
Or as a child? No, now.
No, now. You know what's great about you being on, Zach, is you're sparking all this nostalgic memories from people. Detective Norton
in a box from the 80s WWF figures. Oh, he puts them at the Fight It Out every few months. Well,
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Those 80s WWF figures are great. It's so interesting how nowadays there are a lot of people making toys to go with toys that were released 40, 50 years ago. Like there are people still making Hasbro WWF style action figures for other wrestlers that never got action figures back in the day. Or the reaction figures of those old 1970s style 5 points of articulation, very stiff, 3 3/4 inch action figures that go with like old Star Wars figures and stuff. It's very, and like He-Man, they do like WWF figures that match with your He-Man characters, or like I think you can get the Misfits to look like your He-Man characters. It's very interesting how the nostalgia for these old toy lines continues today, and people are still making these toys that aren't necessarily the best toys out there in terms of articulation or sculpting, but they're popular because they bring back that memory of something.
Something tells me that if we had like a trivia night, I think, and it was action figures, Zach would sweep.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just got the 0 for 3 on Mike's.
Yeah, well, you're not a Barbie, Mike. And then I did this horizontally, a little subtle thing here. Hold on.
Again, very subtle to tell.
Very subtle. I made it majority of the pages about Zach, but a little bit if people wanted to follow us. So Zach, this is your cubby hole that you're in now.
Yep, better view of the cubby hole with my calendar still set to April. And
why? I have to tell you, what are you so angry about here? Like
I'm angry that my office.
I don't think I've ever seen you not smile. I think that's the first time I ever saw you not smile.
It's me trying to figure out if the timer went off on time.
Oh, okay. And then this was the actual wall that you were just showing us, right? Yeah, there's the Wienermobile.
I got a lot of Matchbox. I'm big into the Matchbox and Hot Wheels. I got stacks of them all over the place. Some designer toys that friends of mine have made.
Wow.
Some of my Star Wars figures. A lot of mini mates. I love the mini mates. Old Disney afternoon figures.
Looks like you got some stuff. Looks like somebody signed something for you.
Yeah, that's signed by Sean Pertwee, who played Alfred on Gotham. But he was also in Dog Soldiers, and he was in Event Horizon, which is one of my favorite movies. And he's the son of John Pertwee, who played Doctor Who. And he signed. We send him some figures that, hey, if you could sign some and send them back to us, we'll do a giveaway and give them to people. And he sent it back saying, to Zach Oat and the DST gang, thanks so much. And I'm like, okay, I'll send you some more. But this time, just sign your name, because we don't know who's going to get these ultimately. But that one, since it's had my name on it, I just decided to keep it.
You had to keep it.
That's cool. And he signed it with the silver pen, and you got your Kool-Aid shirt on. All right.
Yeah.
What else?
I resemble the Kool-Aid man in many ways.
What do we got going on here? What's this corner of the world?
There's my custom Zach as Iron Man action figure, which I got when I left Toy Fair magazine. There's my Rosie the Riveter action figure. This company called Accoutrements had made some of the greatest action figures ever, like the albino bowler and Einstein, and just great stuff. A lot of pictures of my wife. I love my wife. That Slimer is signed by Robin Shelby, who actually played Slimer in the original Ghostbusters movie. Huh. I've got Steve Jeppy, the mini-mate, over there in the corner, he's the guy who owned Diamond Comics and Diamond Select Toys. And I've got my Buddy Christ and Mubi mini-mates as well. We made a lot of different mini-mates.
Buddy Christ.
And this is Mrs. Oat?
That's Mrs. Oat. And then below are my grandparents and my kids. And I picked up that Borg action figure not too long ago, I think, at the thrift store, which I have a special place in my heart because he was a cast member in Twisted Toy Fair. He had there was a whole episode where Spider-Man had to deal with the Borg, and the Borg were all just really annoying.
Yes.
And that's a little sailor hat that says Mystic. It came on a stuffed animal, but I put it on.
It looks like a jock strap.
It's not a jock strap.
Not a jock strap. It's a magical jock strap.
All right, there's your Zach Oat. It looks like let's see, we got to zoom in here. It looks like something.
Oh, that's my Armorer statue from Gentle Giant. A very cool piece. One of the few Funko Pops I have. Groot. Some pieces that were sculpted by Tim Bruckner. You can see that green satyr in the back, which he sculpted. There's a Joker there in between X-23 and Elsa. And that Two-Face in the background is actually an unproduced DC bust that he sent me a long time ago.
Wow.
Tim Bruckner is one of the great traditional sculptors in collectibles.
Russ Wooten threw an easy lob to you.
Yeah. What is the Holy Grail?
Yeah, that's an easy one. What is your Holy Grail action figure that you don't have? Oh my gosh. You know what I don't have in my. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Now, you know, the new Mondo figures that they're putting out, the 12-inch He-Man figures they're putting out. I've never had any He-Man figures. Like, I've never owned, except for maybe a Skeletor missing a foot that I found at a thrift store. I've never really owned any He-Man figures at all. But the Mondo's 1/6 scale He-Man figures, they just revealed Beastman, and it's like the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's just an amazing thing. I don't know if that's like my Grail piece, but you know, it's probably any of the Daft Punk figures that they put out, because they did some Daft Punk action figures that go for a lot of money. But if I had like the Hot Toys or Medicom 12-inch Daft Punk action figures, I could retire.
And I like those. What are they? 10-1? No, what is that? What's that line of really high-end Mego?
10-0?
10-0? No, what are they? My daughter, I got a couple for my daughter. They're like a little smaller than the Mego, but they have all the extras.
Oh, the 112s, the Mezco 112s. Yeah,
I knew it was something with numbers.
Yeah, they're 1/12 scale, so 6 inches tall. And
every one of those is my
costumes. They're very nice. Yeah,
every one of those is my Grail. They're everyone. All right, Zach, we're gonna do a little bit of speed round. We asked you for 3 tips for photographing toys. Number 1, Zach.
Shoot a lot of variations. I did kind of mention it before. When you think you have it, shoot one more. You never know when the last shot may have one small thing wrong with it, or the first one may turn out to be the best.
That's pretty good, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's a very good tip.
Number 2.
Find the best angle. Sometimes shooting from above is the way to go, but usually you want a low angle so the figures seem life-size or larger than life. And always make sure you're capturing both subjects at their best if you have more than one.
Mike, are you jotting these notes down?
I am. They're all going right in here.
Yeah.
It helps that they're pretty straightforward. They're not too much of a stretch.
All right, number 3 of 3.
Check your light sources. They don't have to be fancy. You can use a flashlight if you want, but even if you want a strong light source from one direction, you're going to want another light on the other side or even behind the figure. One light source is rarely the way to go.
And I would say follow Zach Oat on Instagram. It's probably an obvious one right there at the bottom, right, Mike? Right here. They just have to. They got to go follow Zach Oat on Instagram and get inspired. You've inspired us, and we hope that people go and look for your book. Is it exclusive to Amazon?
Yes, I'm publishing it through Amazon's publishing program. So yes, it is exclusively on Amazon. Unless you are at one of the events that I go to occasionally to sign books. I'll be at the Toy Pizza Expo this weekend.
Sounds good. Now, Zach, one of the questions we ask every one of our guests is, what is one piece of advice that you wish you had received earlier in your career? Hold on. Let me change the aspect ratio. Okay. Hey, Zach, what is one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your career?
Your major in college does not determine your career, except when it does.
That is great advice, because you know what? You could be anything you want to be, right, Zach?
Yes. You know, there's plenty of people who, I mean, the fact that I was an art major and I went into doing a lot of writing. I was, a writer, a copy editor and a writer at Toy Fair, and I was a writer and a critic at NBC Universal. And then, I've been writing, primarily for Diamond Select Toys for 14 years. So it doesn't have to define what you do, but it certainly is something that, people look at. And, if I could go back in time, maybe I'd do something a little different. I do art still, but maybe I would have, studied stuff that I think, I thought would be like, something, I studied more writing. I would have majored in creative writing or something.
Yeah, we see how that worked out for Mike, right, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
Look at that background. Look at that baby grand piano right behind him.
Yeah.
Lovely domicile.
Beautiful house, Mike.
Lovely.
All right, Zach, we're going to be putting you in the green room. Sometimes we might pop you back out, so don't pick your nose or anything. But we're going to put you in the green. Mike, what did you stock in the green room for Zach to eat?
I put in the green room grape nuts.
Hold on. Let me put him in there so he can go into the green room real quick. Let me remove him. And then, Zach, you go grab those. Hold on. He's going to go into the green room. He's walking. I can see him back there. All right. And here he is. Oh, look at that. He got the grape nuts.
Yeah.
I love them. They're delicious. They're like sweet, sweet gravel in your mouth.
Oh, yes. That's
like
why I put them back there. Nice and crunchy. It's like chewing on rocks.
It is like chewing on rocks, but tasty. And they put the blueberries and the strawberries like you drop them on the driveway that way.
They let them dry out, so they just hardened right up.
They just harden.
There's no action figures.
There's no action figure in the Emmy room. That's true. The Emmy is an action. It's an inaction figure. Zach, we're gonna
the Emmy.
Yeah, Zach, we're gonna put you in the green room so we could talk about you. Okay. That was fun seeing Zach, wasn't it?
Oh, it was great. I haven't seen Zach in, like we're saying before the show, 26 years.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I saw him and like he had that same giant smile. He lit up the room. It was at New York Comic Con, and I was like, this guy is like the nicest guy in the world, and still is.
Always was.
Always a pleasure to work with. Always a pleasure to work with. Well, Mike, we'll bring Zach to say goodbye to the crowd. I changed our final slide. Everybody should hold on. Like Mike told me that I have to do the
gotta do the music first.
Hold on, let me do the music. We could put the music on. All right, everybody. If you like the show, be sure to tune in every Tuesday at 8 p.m. We need your likes, we need your comments, and we need you to subscribe. But don't forget, at the end of the show, put a comment, because that really helps the algorithm, and we'll keep bringing new people and great guests like Zach Oat. Zach, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and best of luck with the book. We hope you make millions. And don't go away, Zach. When we close out, we'll still be in the green rank. Good night, everybody. We'll see you guys next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good night, everyone.